Hello everybody, and welcome to a little tutorial on how to make this cute little bunny balaclava. It's not the one that covers your whole face. This one covers your head and your neck, and it has some super cute ears that I came up with and attached to the side. So this project is actually made from an old vest that I despised, so I decided to rip it apart, take each and every individual stitch out, rewind it all back up, and then use the balls of that yarn to make this balaclava. Since this was all made from an old project, I don't have an exact estimate of the amount of yardage you'll need to complete this hat, but if you take a little look here, it's not a whole lot. It's a bunch of really chunky old balls that I used. You also need a size 10mm hook, and if you want to slow this down, pause it. Here is your directions. Starting at the first part, I use just a plain old plastic hook. You can use whatever feels the best for you, so long as it's 10mm. When you're done, you're going to grab your yarn and get ready to make a little slip knot. It's actually super simple. You probably know how to make it already. Just wrap it around your fingers and pull it through. Cute little example, nice and simple. Your next step is going to be to chain 35. It is entirely up to you if you make it bigger or smaller to fit your head, but I have some poofy, wavy hair, so I need a little extra room, and I have a big head. So adjust that however you need. Know that I use 35. Once you get to the end of your 35 chain, or just as long or short as you made it, your next step is going to be to make it into a big old ring. So you can see I'm kind of trying to line it up so all the stitches look the exact same. So you don't want anything like curling in on itself. You want it to be nice, flat, straight as it is. And then you're going to line it up together and slip stitch it into the other side to make your ring. The next step is super simple. You're going to start by chaining 2, which will do every single row from this point on, and then double crochet 1 into each individual chain. To double crochet, yarn over and pull through. That way you'll end up with 3 stitches on your hook. And then as you do it, go over once, push it straight through the hole, grab it, back to the 3, pull it through, and then pull it through 2 more. And then you don't chain anything in between, you just go right into the next one. This is where you're going to slip stitch. It's super easy. You push your hook straight through, run over it, pull it out, and just pull through both. You're not going to do anything fancy, just pull it through a second time. So for the next 2 rows, we're going to do something called a front post, back post double crochet. It's the exact same way you do a double crochet, except you're going into front or behind the post itself. So watch as I kind of scoop underneath of it, and then I simply pull it back through the exact same way you would do a normal double crochet. I'm going to do this again so that way I have 2 and 2, and then I'll do a back post as well. Now going the other way around, instead of putting it just right behind, you're going to scoop it the other way. So put it behind your actual piece and pull it all the way through the back. Same way you would do normal double crochet, just again going through the stitch itself. After that, you're just going to keep alternating, do 2 in the front, 2 in the back until you've made it all the way around. To give you a good idea of what this should look like, if you put your piece vertically, you can see that there's a zigzag starting to happen. And then same as the last row and the ones coming. As soon as you make it to the end of this, you need to make sure that you slip stitch right back in. You might have a perfect amount where everything lines up perfectly front post to back post. They might look the same. It really doesn't matter. Whichever part you don't like, you can put in the back. Just make sure you slip stitch when you're done and then chain 2 more. Your next row is going to be the exact same thing. Again, chain 2, and you're going to continue with the front post and back post double crochets. This one's a little bit easier because you actually just have the guidelines for you. 2 in the front and then 2 in the back. Follow the exact same pattern you did in the last row. After you have slip stitched back and finished your 2 rows, you're going to chain 2 more and do 1 double crochet row all the way around. This will set you up to make a really clean hole for your face to go in. After you slip stitch, you'll be done with part 1 and you'll be moving on to part 2 of the directions. This will be where we actually make the shape of the balaclava, including the hole for the face and the hood itself. Depending on the size of your face, which is what I'm trying to measure out now, is how big you want your hole. If you're following my directions exactly, do what I do. If you're changing anything, alter it the way you do it. Just make sure that it's totally symmetrical in the front. I like to use the ribbing to measure exactly how perfectly I want it all to look. When you know what you're doing, make sure you count in between. This is me just doing the math for this part. I make sure it's all even and then I get ready to go. Now that I know my measurements, I'm going to double crochet 2 into this row, and then I'm going to chain a whole 30. In between said chain, I'm going to be skipping 12 and then reinserting my hook for a double crochet onto that 12th stitch. So 2 double crochets are done, and this is when you do your simple chain. You're not connecting anything to the balaclava. You are skipping the amount that you want your face to go into the hole, and you are going to reinsert it wherever that's even for you. For me, it's a chain 30 and then an inserted double crochet for the 12th stitch. Once I have finished my 30 chain, I'm going to double check to make sure that everything fits. I'll hold it up against my face and just eyeball the measurement for a second. Once I know for sure everything is going to fit, I'm going to slip stitch into the 12th stitch. Count it all again if you didn't use a stitch marker. I never do because I'm honestly just lazy. And slip stitch into it. After you slip stitch in, chain 2 again to make sure it's all even and double crochet into the next stitch. Your chain 2 counts as a double crochet, but this time you're going to just finish the work by going all the way around and slip stitching into the start. After you slip stitch into this next part here, you'll be able to get an idea of what the balaclava is actually going to look like. The chain that you just did is where your face is going to go through, and then if you connect the very top of that chain to the back of the balaclava with an imaginary line, that's where the hood is going to be. So if you want to try it on again, make sure that all fits right, go ahead. But now we're going to do the hood. This first row around is just going to be a row of double crochets. Same way you would normally do it, you'll do your chain 2 and go all the way around. This will be our first decreasing row. After you slip stitch, you're going to double crochet 3 and decrease on the 4th. You'll see me do an example in a second where you just simply push it in through the stitch and out through the next stitch, pulling it through 2. What I want to emphasize here is reading the directions. I did this here, and on the opposite side of where the face hole would be, the same thing, where you would do it even on both sides, so the decreases would be parallel if you laid them flat. Afterwards, you're only going to decrease 1 every 5 through the back where the hood's going to go. Here's your example, by the way. Push it through the next, and pull it through both of them. Like I said before, after you finish this little area here, make sure it lines up perfectly with the other side. Afterwards, you're going to decrease only 1 every time you finish 4 double crochets. So on the 5th is where you'll be doing your decrease. After you slip stitch into this, you're going to repeat the same thing for 3 more rows, making sure again to only decrease on the 5th stitch in each row. For a quick check-in in between rows, don't freak out if your slip stitch doesn't line up exactly evenly. You're just going to keep going about this the same way you normally would. If you end a few before, or if it looks like you're going to end a few after, disregard the decrease and make sure you're slip stitching normally. Your next decrease row will be 1 every 3. We were going in on the 5th and the last ones, now you're going to just be doing 1. Same as before, but now we're decreasing every other, so decrease then stop, decrease then stop. And your final row will just be decreasing for every single stitch before we tie it off at the very end. Now you're just going to slip stitch into the same place you started, just like we have done every single row to this point, and you end up with a little tiny hole at the very back. This is what you're going to tie together. I like to just take a very small piece of string, cut it, and then use that to basically just tie a little knot. I like to weave it through each piece and then tie it off at the very end. This concludes part 2. Of course, if you don't want to add the ears, you can just end it here, but the ears come up in the next step. Just weave in your end, and if you use a distress yarn like me, you can weave in some of those parts too. This is the shape that the ears are going to look. You can change them if you would like, but I like them to be big and fat on the bottom and skinny at the top of it. Use this as a reference as you go through. Your very first step is going to be a magic ring. I know a lot of people hate them. I think it just makes the bottoms really clean. Wrap it around your fingers, pull it around, and pull it right through. And then I chain it extra because we'll be doing double crochets. Once that's done and you have your little mini chain, you're going to crochet 6 into the ring here. If you need to learn how to hold it, it comes with practice, but I recommend holding it under one of your fingers to make sure the tension stays put. When you're done, you pull all of it through and then slip stitch into the first. I'll keep the camera slow here just so that way you can see it for people that haven't done this before or that hate doing so. It makes it a little bit easier if you can see what's happening. Once you have all 6 of your double crochets, pull it taut like I said and find the very first stitch. That's where you're going to be slip stitching. For the next row, you'll chain 2 as per usual and double crochet 2 into each stitch. So you go in the same one first, and you go into the same one a second time, and do this all the way around. You'll end up with 12 stitches at the finish. Slip stitch at the end, same as before. I know it's a bit hard to see since the yarn is black, but slip stitch and then chain 2. In this next row, you'll be double crocheting 1 and then double crocheting 2. So 1 into the first and then 2 into the second, and continue that pattern all the way around. Once again, slip stitch at the end and chain 2 more. Once you've finished here, you can lay it flat and see if it's about as big as you want it to be. Alright, now that I fixed the lighting, you will go back to your chain 2, and then you'll be double crocheting 1 into the first, 1 into the second, and then 2 into the third. Again, you're going to continue this pattern all the way around, slip stitching at the end. In between rows, it's perfect to make sure that everything is the same size as either my reference or just as big as you want it, so make sure that you leave it down flat and it'll help you get a good idea of what you're doing. For the next 5 rows, you are just going to double crochet around like normal, and I will meet you back here when we are done. Once all that's done, we're going to start our decreasing rows. Similar to how we did it on the hood, but the method's a little bit different. For the next 3 rows, you're going to choose the 2 opposite points from one another and decrease 1 in each of them. This is about where I determine the halfway point to be, so I'll put my first decrease there. On the opposite end, I'll be doing the exact same thing. Now I'll add my second decrease, which is just the exact same thing I did the other side. We're only doing 2 in this row and 2 for the next 2 rows. Slip stitch normally at the end, and after you're done, laying your ear flat will show you these small decreases on the sides. You want to make sure that you continue to line these points up when you do your next 2 decreases to make sure they continue to cinch in. Once you've completed all 3 of your decreasing rows, you're going to do 4 rows of plain double crochets. Same way we've been doing them, chain up 2, double crochet around, slip stitch at the end. At this point, you're just about done. We're going to do 1 more decrease row, just doing 2 on the side, same way as before. Make sure that they line up with your other ones so that way the angles aren't all wonky. You're just simply going to slip stitch and then do your final row, double crocheting 1 in each stitch all the way around. Slip stitch to close off the round, and then you simply chain 1 extra, this time pulling your yarn all the way through after you make a little cut. This way you can use a little piece of it to attach it onto your balaclava afterwards. Now that both of your ears are finished, line them up together to make sure they're about the same size. Zoom out for you guys. Once you make sure that everything is the way you want it to look, you can line it up against the balaclava itself. I like to try it on a measure. I also think it's good to line it up this way and eyeball it. There's no real rhyme or reason to this. You can simply put the ears wherever you wish. Alright, hi. For this part, we're kind of just gonna situate this, whatever's easiest. This is just for you to like measure where on your head it's gonna go. So, I'm thinking I want my ears kind of far back, both sides like this. So how I end up doing it is kind of just holding this where I want it, taking my hook and just putting it straight through the middle. That's totally it. Take it off your head afterwards, and that's where you're gonna put it, right in that same spot. From here, you can take out whatever you use as a stitch marker and get ready to just sew it on however you see fit. You can use a darning needle, you can use your hook, you can use your fingers if that works. From this point, your main goal is just to get your piece together. I'm going to be using my hook just because I don't feel like picking up anything else. I just weave it through both sides back and forth until it feels strong enough. Once you've finished with your little spot, you can tie it off however you like. I like to hook it back up to the hat itself and pull it through. And just like that, you have finished your bunny ear balaclava. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I would love to hear any criticisms down below. Please subscribe for more content like this, and visit my Instagram and depop, both at Faith.Wisest. Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.